Hi guys, my name is Melissa, and in today's video we're going to be talking about divisibility and remainders. And so we did talk about some sort of division in our previous videos, but in today's video we're going to clarify and really solidify our understanding of division. So in this example problem it says, which of the numbers below are divisible by 8? And so before we go solve that, we're going to go over this review. So it says, when we add multiples of a number n, the result is also a multiple of n. Right? So when we add multiples of a number n, since they're both multiples of n, the result is also going to be a multiple of n. So this might sound a little tricky and hard to understand at first, but you guys are going to see what that means as we solve some more practice problems. And to do division, we can also think of division as reverse multiplication. But then I'm also going to be teaching you guys how to divide. And so first for 8, we're now going to consider 888 first. So we can write 888 as a sum of multiples of 8. So it can be 800 plus 80 plus 8. And 880 are all multiples of 8. Since 800 is 8 times 100, and 80 is 8 times 10, and 8 is 8 times 1. So they're all multiples of 8. So the sum of multiples of 8 are going to be multiple. So again, when we add multiples of a number n, so we're adding multiples of the number 8, then the result, 888, is also a multiple of n. And since 888 is a multiple of 8, it can be divided by 8. And so we can say that 888 is divisible by 8. And now we're going to do the same thing for 4,850. 4,850 can be written as 4,000 plus 800 plus 50. Now 4,000 can be expressed as 8 times 500. And then we can express 800 as 8 times 100. But for 50, it's not divisible by 8. And so because of this, since 50 is not a multiple of 8, the resulting number 4,850 is not a multiple of 8. So it's not divisible by 8. Now we'll look at 16,864. Now that can be written or expressed as 160,000 plus 800 plus 64. And so 16,000 can be divided by 8 because it's 8 times 2,000. 800 is 8 times 100, and 64 is 8 times 8. So all three numbers are multiples of 8. So when we add multiples of 8, then the result, 16,864, is also a multiple of 8. So this number is divisible by 8. But instead of solving it like this, later on when we actually do division, it's actually really complicated and takes a long time for us to constantly divide numbers into like 800 plus 80 plus 8 and then see if it's divisible by a given number or not. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do division. So first we write 888, and then we draw two lines like this, right? So we draw two lines. And so 888 is the number that we want to divide, and we want to divide it by 8. So we're going to place the 8 over here. Now, in this case, we're going to learn about things called a dividend and quotient. And so, dividend, quotient, and divisor. And so, the 888, or what is being divided, that is what we call a dividend. So, it's really helpful to know these terms, but if you guys don't right now, it's totally fine, and you guys can learn and memorize these terms as we go. But it's really important that you guys know how to solve this using division. So you can learn these terms and memorize the terms as you go, but you should really memorize how to divide using this strategy. And so the number being divided, like 888, is called a dividend. And numbers like 8, which is what we're dividing by, so number we're dividing by, that is called our divisor. Now, we're first going to look at the very first number of the dividend. So, how many 8s, how many of the divisor can go in the first digit? So, how many 8 can go into this 8? It can go in once, right? So we multiply these two. So I know this might sound a little tricky at first, but try to follow along. So if we have 1 8, then that is 8. So we're going to write that down here. And then we're going to subtract. So 8 minus 8 is 0. Then we're going to bring this 8 down and write it over here. And now how many of the divisor can go into this number? That's going to be 1 again. So we're going to subtract again. That gives us 0. So then we're going to bring the next number down. So we're going to write our 8 here. And then we're going to write 1 because 8 can go into 8 once. And that ultimately gives us an ending result of 0. And so we know that 888 divided by 8 is going to be 111. Now let's take a look at 4,850. So I'll do it on the side here. So that is going to be our dividend. Oh, and also this number, I forgot to mention, 111 is our, our answer. I'll say answer for now. That is what we call our quotient. And the final number that we're left with is called a remainder. But if we have 0, then that means there was no remainder. So we call that no remainder. But sometimes numbers that are not 0 can be placed as our final leftover. And that is when we say we have a remainder. And we're going to learn that in the next page. So before we move on, I want to clarify 2 possible ways that we can divide. And so the first is long division, which is the method that we just talked about. And so long division is the method that uses quotient, long division is the method that has the dividend, which is the number that's being divided, the divisor, which is the number that we're dividing by, the quotient, which is the answer, and the remainder, which can happen when, in this case, the dividend isn't completely divisible by the divisor. And so for me, I personally prefer long division because right now it might be okay to use the other method, but later on when we solve more math problems, more advanced and complicated problems, and especially when we're on a time crunch, it's really difficult for us to break down numbers into multiple pieces and then divide all of them and then combine them all together. So instead of doing that, we need to mechanically be able to divide right away. And an easy way to do that is long division. And so if we have long division, we just basically use multiplication in the long division. So you know what I mean? Like if the divisor is 2 and the first number is 8, then we're like, oh, 2 can go into 8 4 times, so we write 4 in the area for the quotient. And so like that, once we get used to long division, it becomes really, really easy and gives us an answer straight away. But of course, there are benefits and disadvantages to long division. For long division, I think once the number gets too big, or if there's a lot of zeros in the number, like if a number is like 1000005, if there's a lot of zeros in between, it can get really confusing. Now, the second option that we talked about was breaking down numbers. So, for example, for numbers like 9,999, we can divide that into 9,000 plus 900 plus 90 plus 9. And then, especially when we're dividing 9,999 by 9, then we can divide it into 9,000 plus 900 plus 90 plus 9 and be like 9,000 divided by 9 is 1,000. 900 divided by 9 is 100. 90 divided by 9 is 9. 90 divided by 9 is 10. And 9 divided by 9 is 1. And then add them all together. So we get 1,111. But again, as I mentioned before, we don't have a lot of time to just break down numbers when we need to solve really quickly. And also it becomes more complicated when it's not easy division. Like 9,999 divided by 9, it's all related to 9, but when numbers aren't related, it's kind of pointless and defeats the purpose of breaking down the numbers. So you really want to use different strategies at different times and look at the situation of the problem. And so I want you guys to kind of figure out what method you prefer. So I'm going to give you guys a short division problem, and it's not part of the lesson, but I still want you guys to kind of figure out what strategy you prefer for division. And so I want you guys to divide this number using 1, the long division method, and 2, the breaking down numbers method, and see which one fits you best. And so we're going to do 12,678 divided by 2, and I'll be giving you guys about 2 minutes to solve this problem. And for those of you who solved it, the correct answer to this problem was 6,339. So for 4,850, that's our dividend, and then we're dividing by 8. So 8 is our divisor again. Now, how many of 8 can go into 4? None of it can go in, so we're going to write 0 as a placeholder, but later on when we get used to it, we don't actually write out the 0. So now we're going to keep the 4 since we couldn't do anything with it. So how many 8s can go into 48? Now, since we know that no 8 can go into 4, since 8 is greater than 4, we're now going to look at these two numbers together. So 8 can go into 48 6 times. It's going to give us 0, so we're going to bring the 5 down. How many 8s can go into 5? 0. Now, in the beginning, we didn't write the 0, but when the 0 comes after a number, then we must write it out. Okay, so when we start with the 0, we don't have to write it, but when 0 comes after a number, then we have to write it. We can't just think of it as a placeholder. We have to write out the 0. Then we're going to bring down this 0, so 50. How many 8s can go into 50? We can have 6. That's going to give us 48, but we're still left with 2. And so we say that this is our quotient, and we have a remainder of 2. We're going to learn more about remainders in the next page, but just to give you a general idea, we have a remainder of 2. Now we'll look at 16,864. Now we're going to divide it by 8. So 8 cannot go into 1 because 8 is greater than 1. So now we're going to look at these two numbers together. Right? So we're going to think of it as having a 0 at the very first. Now 8 can go into 16 twice. So we're going to write 16. Bring down the 8. Now 8 can go into 8 once. Bring down the 6. 8 can go into 6 0 times since 8 is greater than 0. So we're going to write out the 0. Then bring down the 4. 8 can go into 64 8 times. And so 16,864 divided by 8 is going to be 2,108. And when the remainder is 0, which means that we don't have a remainder, then the dividend is divisible by the divisor. But when we do have a remainder, then we say that it's not divisible by the divisor. And so now we're going to look at some practice problems. And so it says, circle every number below that is divisible by 8, divisible by 7. So learning the technique we just did, we're going to try it out. So bring down the zeros. So 7, so it's going to be 1,001 with a remainder of 0. So we don't have a remainder, so it is divisible by 7. For 49,049, let's try dividing it by 7. And on the 4, it's going to be 7,007. So it is divisible by 7. And then for 147,285, if we try to divide it by 7, we have 5 as a remainder, so it's not divisible by 7. For 700,721, if we divide it by 7, that's going to give us 100,103. And so it is divisible by 7 because we do not have a remainder. Now we're going to try this number. If we try to divide it by 7, we get So if this is a little fast, because we're running out of time, you guys can always just feel free to pause the video and then come back to it when you can. So now we're going to be left with a remainder of 3. And so because of that remainder, we know that the number is not divisible by 7. Right, so it's not, and I made a mistake here. I was supposed to write 5, not 7. And so, yeah, it's not divisible by 7 because we know that we have a remainder. So because I miswrote the 5, I'll just quickly redo it just in case some of you guys might be confused. So I was thinking of 7 and I just wrote the number 7, so I apologize if that confused you guys. So to show you how to do division, I'll just go over this problem one more time. Oh my gosh, I wrote 7 again. I'm so sorry, guys. I think it's because I keep thinking of 7 as the divisor and I keep writing 7. But it was supposed to be 5. Since it's 7 times 5 equals 35. And so we have that. 3 is still 0. 7 cannot go into 3, so we still write a 0 here. And since we have a remainder, it's not divisible by 7. So next, circle every number below that is divisible by 8. So 8 can go into 48 6 times. And then it can go into 28 3 times, but then it has a remainder of 4. And so it's not divisible by 8. Now for 8,064, it can go in 1,004 times, so it is divisible since we don't have a remainder. For 80,400, 402 if we divide it by 8. We have a remainder of 2. So it's not divisible by 8. Then 484,560. If we try dividing it by 8, 8 can go into 48 6 times. 0 times into 4. And then 5 times into 45. Then it can go into 56 7 times. And so we don't have a remainder, so this is divisible by 8. And then we're going to look at 484,024. So if we try dividing it by 8, we get, sorry, I know it's not that clear, so let me just erase what we did above. So we don't have a remainder since we end in a 0. So this number is also divisible by 8. Now we're going to look at problem 43. So it says circle every number below that is divisible by 9. So again, we're going to do the same thing. This one is divisible by 9. We have a remainder of 1, so it's not divisible by 9. This is not divisible by 9 because we have a remainder of 6. Right, so it's not divisible by 9. And for 63,027, we have 0 as our ending, so we don't have a remainder, so it is divisible by 9. And last but not least, if we divide this number by 9, it is divisible since we don't have a remainder, and so we're going to say that this number is divisible by 9. Now we're going to go on to remainders. And so it says remainders is the concept that we learned just now while we were learning about division. But it says without computing a quotient, give the remainder when each number or sum is divided by 9. And so it says that we shouldn't compute the quotient. And so a way to do this is we can think of 900 99,999 plus 999 can be thought of as 9 times 11,111 plus 111, right? Then the sum is divisible by 9 because we have this at front. So when we divide it by 9, this is going to be our quotient, right? So it is divisible by 9. And so the remainder is going to be 0. Now for 100, 100 is going to be 99 plus 1. So that's going to be 99. So that's going to be 9 times 11 plus 1. So we know that we have a remainder of 1 here. So the remainder is going to be 1. For this, we know that 10 is 1 more than 9. So this is going to be all expressed as 9 plus 1. And so we're going to express that all as 9 plus 1. And so that is basically going to be nine plus 9. Since we have 8 of these, we're going to write 9 8 times. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And then we have 1 8 times as well, so it's going to be plus 8. And so this is all divisible by 9, but 8 cannot be divided by 9, so our remainder is going to be 8. Then we know that 1,000 is 999 plus 1. So it's going to be 999 plus 999 plus 999 plus 999 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So it's going to be plus 4. And so this portion is all divisible by 9, but 4 is not. So 4 is going to be our remainder. Then we have 10,000, which is 9,999 plus 1. 100 is 999 plus 1. And 1,000 is 999 plus 1. And 100 is 99 plus 1. So we have a group of numbers that are divisible by 9. And then we have plus 3. And so 3 is going to be our remainder. Then we have 5,000, and so 5,000 is going to be 1,000 added 5 times. And each 1,000 can be expressed as 999 plus 1. So we have 999 5 times plus 1 5 times, which is 5. So our remainder is going to be 5. Now we're going to look at 3,000 plus 30. So 3,000 is going to be 1,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000, and 30 can be expressed as 10 plus 10 plus 10. And 1,000 can be expressed as 999 plus 1, and 10 can be expressed as 9 plus 1. So what this is going to look like is it's going to look like 999 times 3 plus 1 times 3, or plus 3. And then we add 9 times 3 plus 3. And so that's going to give us 999 times 3 plus 9 times 3 plus 3 plus 3, which is 6. Now these two are both divisible by 9, so our remainder is going to be 6. Now for problem 51, 10,000 can be expressed as 1,000 times 10. So that's going to be 999 plus 1 times 10. 2,000 is 1,000 times 2, so it's 999 plus 1 times 2. And then we have, well, actually for this, instead of thinking it as 10,000 times 10, we can express this as 9,999 plus 1. Then 300 can be expressed as 100 times 3, so it's 99 plus 1 times 3. And so since everything involving numbers that are divisible by 9 can be excluded, we have 1 plus 1 times 2, 2, plus 1 times 3, 3. And so that is going to be 7, and 7 is going to be our remainder. So it's 3 plus 2 plus 1, which is 6, not 7. Sorry for the confusion. So 6 is going to be our remainder. Now last question, we have 50,000 plus 4,000 plus 300 plus 20 plus 1. And so for 50,000, that can be expressed as 10,000 times 5. So it's going to be 9,999 plus 1 times 5. And already from this sequence, we know that we have a remainder of 5. And then 4,000 can be expressed as 1,000 times 4. So it's 999 plus 1 times 4. So from that, we have a remainder of 4. Then for 300, it's 100 times 3. So 99 plus 1 times 3. So we have a remainder of 3 in this case. For 20, that's 10 times 2. So it's 9 plus 1 times 2. So we have a remainder of 2 here, and 1 is just a remainder of 1. And when we add those together, that's going to be 15. And so dividing 15 by 9, that's going to give us 6. So 6 is going to be our ultimate remainder. Yeah, and that was it for today's lesson, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye!